to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So if I wasn't a physician, I would probably be a strategist. Either a strategist for the Democrats or the Republicans or the independents or whoever would hire me, because I love strategy. I love PR. I love, not making a fool of yourself. And so I would really like to speak to whoever is running the Kamala Harris campaign, because they just made one of the biggest mistakes before she even hit the ground running. And as many of you know, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is coming to speak to Congress, giving updates on the hostages, on the atrocities that have happened, how they are dealing with the Hamas terror attack that happened on October 7th. And even if Benjamin Netanyahu is not the most popular prime minister, even if, let's say, somebody in Congress doesn't like him, whether they like him or not like him, you have a job. And if Kamala Harris is going to be the Democratic nominee for president and hit the ground running, and wanting to dispel all the myths that she can't handle foreign policy, she can't handle the job. And I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I know a lot of people said she's not qualified and all that, but, I understand that being vice president, you don't get to shine. We usually don't get to see a lot of heroism and foreign policy acumen as vice president. You don't get to see that because you're in the shadow of the president. And already day one, even though she's not president, but she's vice president, possibly, going to, be the Democratic presidential, contender and possibly a future president. Why wouldn't she meet with our allies' prime minister? Let's say you don't like Macron. Let's say you don't like, I don't know. Let's say there are let's say you are not really keen on other individuals that are running other countries. When you are in a position such as the possible future president, you don't meet him. Another bad look is we still have American hostages. Hamas is still holding hostages. And so if the Democrats want to show that Kamala Harris can deal, if they want to show that she knows how to deal with the big guys out there and be a force to be reckoned with, why wouldn't you take a stand against Hamas, take a stand against terrorism, offer your guidance and your support of what needs to be done to get the hostages out and for there to be an end in the Israel-Gaza conflict? This is such an opportunity. She is losing out on such an opportunity to dispel a lot of the myths about her. And I'm being told she's going to just speak at an event. I think it might be let me see here. I think she's supposed to be speaking at a, somebody's saying it's going to be to a sorority. I don't even want to even entertain that idea. I don't care who she's speaking to. This is a lost opportunity. I'm also very disappointed at those Democratic Congress people who are not going to hear Netanyahu speak. I understand that some people are displeased with what has happened in terms of the Israel-Gaza or Israel-Hamas war. But when Americans are hostage, when terrorism happens, when atrocities and killings and rapes and beheadings occur, and you disagree with how the country is trying to defend themselves or to stop an entity that has threatened to attack again, don't you still want to meet them? Don't you still want to air your concerns? No, we're not going. We're taking the day off. No, bad look. Bad look. And so when I heard that Netanyahu was coming, I'm like, okay, Kamala Harris could have a real impressive moment here. She's not doing it. Trump is going to meet with him. And again, I'm just really confused because, Kamala Harris is going to be criticized a lot for her lack of experience, for things that have been purported in terms of her rising to fame and et cetera. And she has an opportunity to fix that. And it's a shame that we women have to do that. But unfortunately, there's stories out there, there's pictures out there, and so it's, but she has a chance to redeem herself. And we understand Biden was playing it safe, whether he was playing an active role at all. But here she has a chance to help turn the tide, to change history, to get our hostages out. If I was Trump or Kamala Harris, I'd be like, okay, what do you need? And if you can't get our hostages out, let us do it. These are Americans. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. And then try to work with countries that are trying to combat terrorism while at the same time making sure innocent civilians are safe. It's not that difficult a decision to make. And instead, it's, we don't know who to please or appease, so we're going to stand with the boycott group. Remember, Kamala, you're in a different role now. You might be the future president. Then you need to start looking like a vice president. You need to start looking like campaigning for your own campaign when we have American hostages held by terrorists and we have a war that we might be drawn into. Not the best choice. So whoever is advising her, please take my advice. All right. Please reach out to me because I love strategy and this is not a good one. The 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our Fantasy Football Pocket Guide for Beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah and on Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show. Also on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So I have heard for years people criticize California drivers. And I was born in Southern California. I finished my last year of medical school in Southern California. I'm there multiple times a year, and I consider myself a California driver. But there is a difference between California drivers and other drivers, and I'm not sure why I'm getting these sounds popping from my computer. I just turned the sound off. I turned the sound off, and it's still doing that. Don't ask. But having driven in California myself, I think we might need to rethink the criticism of California drivers and actually learn a thing or two from them. So what is this stereotype that California drivers have? So people accuse California drivers or people driving from LA or Southern Cal or whatever as being aggressive, as being nonchalant about traffic rules, of overly speeding, cutting you off. And they get a bad rap. The California stop, very famous in terms of there's a stop sign. People in California may not necessarily stop completely and wait. They might do a rolling stop, which is illegal. You still can get a ticket, but it has been monikered the California roll or the California stop. And so if you don't understand what happens in California, what happens in traffic, you don't understand what is in the mindset of the California driver, but you could also extrapolate that to real life. So having driven in California, it is hit or miss if you are going to have an easy ride or a horrible, horrible commute. And having had an hour and a half commute, driving just 15 miles every day to get to the hospital. I understand that traffic is just, it's just a part of, the fabric of living in California, Southern and Northern. So when you drive, even though COVID has kind of cleaned a bit of the streets up in terms of people working from home, when you get stuck in traffic, and you are just at a crawl or just not even moving and you're sitting there on the freeway, it's pretty annoying. When you have any open space in between cars, you take advantage of it. So you quickly change the lanes. You could actually get into a lane, whether it's an exit lane or a right-handed lane, and be able to travel a half a mile without stopping. And if you time it right, and if the stars are aligned, you could sometimes save yourself 20 to 30 minutes of your commute. If you got off the freeway at the right time, if you were able to interweave in and out of traffic and get those breaks, get those spots. And so I'm driving in California. I come back to Vegas. And everybody and I live in Southern Nevada. Southern Nevada, people are driving more chill on the roads. They're still driving the speed limit and some people are speeding. But when there's an open space or an open opportunity, you don't see people flying. And in California, it's interesting. I was driving at at sunrise, and you see people speeding along a freeway that's basically empty. Why? Because if you get that rare opportunity to have open road, you take it because you don't know when you're going to hit traffic. So you find yourself maxing on the speed you're allowed to do just to get that freedom that you have before you're confined. And in human behavior and human instinct, we don't like to be confined. Being stuck in traffic isn't just about being impatient or being stuck in traffic. It's being trapped. I don't like that feeling. I don't like that feeling being in gridlock where you are just sitting there, where you could get carjacked, you could get attacked, you could get killed, you are just sitting on a freeway when cars a half a mile back could be going at 70, 80 miles an hour and could then hit you, and now you're stuck in a pileup. it's very it's not easy. So very disturbing feeling. So we need to, okay, I'm sorry. This computer sucks. Sorry about this. Let me do this. Okay. Yes, I know how to work computers. I just don't know how to work the little D sound. So in life, sometimes you need to take advantage of that open highway or that open road, because there will be, you see the metaphor? Yeah, I was getting somewhere. I know you guys are like, is she getting somewhere? Yes, I'm getting somewhere with this. Because you might think that you'll have that open highway forever, but there's going to be a roadblock. And when that roadblock happens, or that traffic, okay, you need to, one, be prepared for it, but two, know how to sail through that and understand it'll always loosen up, but don't let life pass you by. And when other cars pass you and there's a lane that you could be in, and it's a good lane, it's a safe lane, and you're seeing other cars pass you by, and you're like, well, I don't know. California drivers actually can be kind of telling us how you need to approach life. Now, I don't think you should be speeding and cutting people off and being aggressive and being an absolute jerk like I've seen over there. Even in Nevada, I've seen that with drivers too. I'm like, excuse me, most of the time they have a California license plate, but that's neither here nor there. But, our opportunities to have that fast lane or to have some room to go and room to wiggle should never be blown off. If you have an opportunity to take a trip, if you have an opportunity to get your health on track, if you have an opportunity to go for your dream, you got to take advantage of it. And so it takes a little bit of guts and chutzpah and cojones to leave your safe lane to jump in the fast lane. I get that. Lane changes could be pretty nerve-wracking. It could be risky. But life's going to pass you by. And you don't want to spend 3 hours in traffic or 30 years in gridlock. And so, don't be driving crazy. Don't be doing super high risky things. But life does give you an open highway many times. And you could either choose to take advantage of it or not. And I see time and time again, so many people not live life to their fullest, not take care of their health. How many of you had health insurance with your job before Obamacare? Or before your insurance changed to a high deductible? And now you're like, ooh, I was going to do that, but remember I talked to you guys about if you needed knee surgery or your hip replacement or your mammogram, get it done and get it done now, because there's going to be even more changes to healthcare. One of the reasons why I did that is we always think that whatever we have now, we will always have. It's always at our disposal. It's not. Your grandma might not always be there. Your parents might not always be there. Your pet. One of the pets was really bugging me, and I was like, quit bugging my ass. And because I was trying to sleep, right? Why would I do that? I don't know how much longer that pet is with me, especially with coyotes and rattlesnakes all over the place where we live. You have choices. We think we don't. And then when we do get stuck in gridlock, we're like, damn, I should have done something different. Well, I don't want to cry a river either. All right? Just learn from it. We've all been in gridlock. We've all been in traffic. You know what you need to do. And so when you do see a California driver who's not being a jerk, mind you, okay, and some of them are, understand that some of these people are living from experience and that you only have X amount of opportunities. If there's a job that you've really wanted to do, or there's something you want to do it, don't wait. If you have a physical exam you should have done years ago, get that flipping done. If you have a loved one you really needed to reconnect with, do it. If there's somebody you wanted to tell you were sorry to that you never did, do it. Telling somebody you're sorry isn't that hard to do. Just because you tell somebody you're sorry doesn't necessarily mean you're admitting guilt. See, a lot of us don't want to say we're sorry when the other person screwed up. Because when you say you're sorry, that means you're admitting guilt. What are you sorry for? Are you sorry for us not speaking? Us not working this out? All right? It's okay. I can't tell you how many people in my life I really wish I had some more conversations with before they left. Especially my dad. So, maybe visit California, see what the highways are like, and try to live your life accordingly. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hotshot Secret, powered by science.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So this is an interesting story. There is a woman from California that claims that her experience on a JetBlue flight was so stressful that it caused her cancer to return. Oksana Kirichenko, 51 years old, according to Daily Mail, has now filed a lawsuit against JetBlue over an incident that happened in 2023, where she was denied from flying with her emotional support French bulldog in first class. She claims she had been in remission from stage 4 cancer until shortly after confrontation with an airline employee. This is being reported by The Independent. She and her 71-year-old husband, Peter, were allegedly victims of, quote, an unexplainable level of cruel humiliation and ridicule when they tried to return home from Florida. They paid a total of $4,300 for 2 round-trip first-class tickets, sent the airline the required forms for traveling with a service animal, but were not allowed to do so. So their dog, Pierre, I guess, sat at their feet inside a travel bag in the first class area. They were fine going from Florida to Los Angeles, but as they prepared to board the flight back to LA, an airline agent approached them and asked if the dog was allowed to fly with them. So the suit claims that Peter has a severe disability affecting his ability to stand, and the airline employee was unmoved when informed about the couple's health issues and kept them standing for a long time. So apparently the couple, one of them had to give up their first class ticket to sit and fly with the dog, I believe, in coach. Now, again, what makes this very interesting is she states her cancer came back. They said when the plane was preparing to take off, the flight attendant reportedly handed her a bag that was too small for the dog, and the plane was ordered to return to the airport, and the couple had to be ousted from the flight. The couple was then forced to wait for another flight the next day, bought new tickets on Delta, had to book a hotel room, so they're suing JetBlue for unnecessary monetary damages. But because of the extreme amount of stress, upon arrival from home, she checked into Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, and the test results showed that her mean tumor molecular level had risen to 0.59 when her previous test showed she was at 0. Now, I don't have a lot of information on the type of cancer that she had, but this is interesting because can you be sued as an employer, as a neighbor, if the stress you cause makes somebody's cancer come back out of remission? Or can you sue if your cancer comes out of remission for stress? So it's an interesting case. You know, I think they have a case in terms of their getting their tickets back. I mean, if they did the paperwork for their service dog, the paperwork was in order, they did all their due diligence, and then all of a sudden somebody says no, I think they do. They need to be reimbursed, they need to be given vouchers, etc. But this is a very interesting concept of the cancer coming back and stress. And can you blame somebody for your cancer coming back? Stress, we do know, can put your body through, for lack of a better term, stress, such that your immune system can be diminished just enough for cancer cells kept in check to rebound, grow, take advantage of the situation. And so I'm no legal expert, but I'm fascinated with the concept of what stress causes the most numbers of cancer rebound or recurrences. What does that stress have to look like? Is it any stress? Is it, now mind you, getting kicked off a flight? I've never been kicked off a flight. My guess is that's pretty stressful. But is that enough? Or if cancer is going to recur, it's going to recur. Can we quantify the time it takes for that cancer to grow? We can. We do have objective data on different cancer cells and their division growth and how long it might take a blood test to detect levels of growth. We do have that ability. But if we eventually set a precedence in the courts for stress causing someone's cancer to either occur or come back, well, there's no stopping all the legal ramifications this could be. I mean, if somebody had a heart attack, if somebody had autoimmune disease, if somebody had kidney disease, stress can cause a lot of this. Diabetes. If somebody has a stressful job, can they sue for the diabetes that they may contract because of stress and what it does with your glucagon stimulation and your insulin regulation? And so it's an interesting topic. The moral, though, of all of this is you got to decrease stress. I hate that whole quote terminology because you need to kind of give people the instructions on how. When somebody says you need to reduce stress, you need to reduce the stress in your life. Yeah, if I could do that, I would. I'm trying to pay a mortgage. Gas prices are ridiculous. Grocery prices are ridiculous. Every time I watch the news, my blood pressure rises. This isn't me, but the in-laws are coming. We got to buy an electric car soon. We don't know who's running on the presidential ticket. Our former president was almost assassinated. There's a lot of stress. People don't want to lose their job. So how do you not let stress cause you to have cancer? Cause your cancer to return? If I had cancer, God forbid, that's stressful enough. How do you reduce your stress knowing you have cancer that could return? So there actually is an answer to that. I know I pose a lot of rhetorical questions, but because reducing stress is so important, and we have objective data showing that generally stress can cause stroke, heart attack, cancer, diabetes, all sorts of things, then you have some wiggle room. You could still work within the confines of stressful life. You could delegate. If the kids are driving you crazy and there's a lot of stress with the kids, you could have family members delegated for, okay, you do homework time with them. You do the piano lessons. Oh, I know, piano lessons. Don't get me started. Oh, that's rough. Oh, my gosh. When the kids wanted to quit piano, I was like, fine. That's tough, especially listening to the off key. But you could delegate. You could take breaks. You can adjust your work schedule. You could change jobs. Might not be the simplest now, but you do have options. And that's another thing, knowing you have options. Do a staycation. If you can't afford a vacation, do a staycation. Make sure you dedicate time in your morning, your afternoon, and night to stress relief. Whether it's meditation, whether it's yoga, whether it's a bubble bath, whether it's watching a funny clip. But we do need to put that as a forefront to our health on reducing stress. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Considered by most, optimized curcumin is one of the few bioavailable and highly absorbable curcumin products on the market. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch. Since most chronic diseases have inflammation, our optimized curcumin seems to be a perfect addition to any nutritional program. It makes sense to me that preventing or reducing inflammation is a key component to our overall health. The Mayo Clinic found that curcumin can decrease swelling and inflammation, has antioxidant properties, and research suggests that curcumin can prevent cancer, or at least slow the spread of cancer, and in many instances make chemotherapy more effective. It protects our healthy cells even from radiation. TotalWellness.com, where we help you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook at the Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. Okay, so I think many of us have already heard it time and time again, and I'm glad we have the messaging of when you're in an emergency, you call 911. Call 911. What do you do if there's an emergency, kids? Call 911. What should you do if you see a choking victim? Call 911. What do you do if you see a fire? Call 911. What do you do if you're in a crime scene and are at risk in an emergency, call 911. So we all have that messaging down. We call 911. I think we need to expand the education just a little bit more, because unfortunately we are seeing time and time again where this reliance on, I could just call 911 and Superman comes, might not always be the most realistic option if the response time changes. What is the average response time? So before a lot of the defunding and some of the other issues that we've had recently, it was about 5 to 10 minutes on average. That doesn't include every zip code. It's not necessarily the same for somebody living in an apartment on the 6th floor or in an area where they have had lack of funding for first responders. And so when people are told we call 911, that's good. That's wonderful. But I'm wondering if people are forgetting that you also have to know what to do yourself. You want to entrust that 911 is going to be there for you. And that is why your operators will walk you through steps. Some people will call 911 and then hang up. Don't hang up. Because if the response time is not going to be short enough for the emergency you're in, you might not make it, or the person you're trying to help might not make it. And so God bless our 911 operators who will walk you through CPR, first aid. But why do we have to have 911 operators carry all that burden? Why doesn't the average person know the Heimlich, first aid, CPR, how to defend themselves? If there's a home invasion, what to do, where to hide, how to address it. We don't offer that other education. Why? Liability. If you saw a campaign where they said, well, what you need to do is you need to disarm the suspect, and then somebody gets hurt, that PSA, whoever made that PSA, is getting sued. But I see this over-reliance on, well, I could call 911. There was a hiker, sadly, that recently died. We're going to be speaking about some of the recent hiking incidents. She was in Utah where she didn't have enough water, extremely high temperatures. And it's just heartbreaking. And so I believe she was able to call emergency services. But we need to understand that there's limitations to these emergency services. That if there's a horrible snowstorm, that 5 to 10 minute response time is going to greatly increase. If you live in an apartment on, let's say, the 8th story, and elevators down, and a gurney has to be brought up 8 flights, the response time of 911 might not be 5 to 10 minutes of a first responder getting there. Which means if you are about to embark on something, going, do you have enough water? Do you have enough? If I run into any problems, I'll call 911. And I've heard that. I've heard people say that. I'll be at my friend's house. The kids are all going off. And they're like, well, look, be careful. If there's anything, don't worry. I know. Call 911. Well, calling 911 is important. And I'm glad it is just tumbling off people's tongues. I love the fact that they have that memorized. They know to call 911. But should we just also start educating on some of the other things you need to be able to do? We were hiking and there was a dead bunny on the sidewalk the other night, and cute, adorable little bunny. And because it didn't look like it was smashed or run over, my son thinks it was probably, a rattlesnake. We got a lot of rattlesnakes around where we live in Southern Nevada. And because we walk at night, because it's cooler, then we're out and about when the rattlesnakes are out. How many of you know what to do with a rattlesnake bite? If you're hiking and it's nighttime and you get bit by a rattlesnake, calling 911 might be an option, but you need to do some things. Yeah, you need to clean the wound. You need to get away from the snake. You need to identify also what the snake is so you could tell. You need to get yourself to a medical facility, get some antivenom. There's things we need to know how to do ourselves. And we don't. I am so grateful for our first responders, and I'm so grateful for these 911 operators. God bless them. Talk about stress. That is a stressful job. And what they are able to do is amazing. But you can't just rely on that. If you are going to, let's say, be out of the heat, and plan, just always have in the back of your mind, what if we call 911 and they can't get here for 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes? What's our plan then? We all have the calling 911 plan down. I'm glad. Bravo. Wonderful. Okay, but what's your plan B? Always think in the mind, what if the cops can't come quick enough? Okay, if there's a fire in your house, calling that, I've lived through a fire in the house. I've lived through that. The fire spreads quickly. By the time the firemen come, the fire fighters come, God bless them, there's going to be more damage than when it started, because obviously you call 911 and fire spread quickly. Do you know where the fire extinguisher is? Do you know how to identify when a fire? And I look up because I just remember the smoke, such a speed of the smoke and it filling and the thickness of it. And do you understand that you need to stop, drop and roll, or you need to get out? Or if it's small enough, where the fire extinguisher is, how to unplug the fire extinguisher and use it. Is your fire extinguisher expired? Is it up to date? We have in our minds, well, you call 911. Okay, that's great. I don't want to change that. But, okay, so now what? What are you going to do? Now what? Most of us should know how to put out a simple fire. Most of us should know how to stop a gas leak, turn off our gas. Most of us should know how to treat an early burn. Most of us should know that if you're in a car accident, not to mess with a person's neck and move certain victims, because you could, we have to teach people the basics and not just, and that's why I told you, that's why I think schools, the curriculum could be way different, where the mornings are shorter core lessons on the basics and everything they need to learn. And then the afternoon is all the practical learning. All the grades, depending on their age level, they could learn banking, education, law, electricity, all the trades, so they understand what they're going to want to go into later in life. They learn first aid. They learn self-defense. They learn how to fish, hike, start a fire for warmth, extinguish a fire. All of these things should be basic. And we're relying on Cub Scouts to teach them, or grandpa or grandma to teach them. I think we need to have mass education in basics. Basic survival stuff. 1-877-Daliah.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.